Today we're going to be talking about linear functions. We've been talking about it throughout the last year, along with slope and everything like that. So what we're going to do now is see Jada's making bank. So Jada earns $7 per hour for mowing her neighbor's lawn. Name the two quantities in the situation that are in a functional relationship. Which did you choose to be the independent variable, and which one did you decide will be on the dependent variable? So x and y. What would I label on the x-axis? Well, since I know that she's earning $7 per hour, the per hour tells us what our x-axis should be. So this should be hours, or you could say time in hours. Okay, and we don't have to put little tick marks or anything like that. And now it says, which would you choose to be the independent variable, meaning what's going to be on our y-axis. So on our y-axis, she's doing something per hour. Well, she's earning money, $7 per hour. So this can be labeled as money or cost, and it'll be called dollars. Alright, so there we go. All the question A was asking you was to label the x and y axis. So we know that she's earning $7 per hour. So I know that each hour she's going to make $7. If I was going to write an equation to represent this function, well, remember our equation, our standard form, our base formula is y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So do I know what my slope is? Absolutely. I know she's earning $7 per hour. This per tells us that that's going to be our slope. So if I was going to write an equation, I would write y equals, because y and x stay there. They don't change unless we put numbers in them. So y equals $7, and I'm going to have the x right next to it. And it doesn't say she's starting with anything, so we don't need to put a y-intercept. You could say +0 if you wanted to, but remember, mathematicians are pretty lazy. So what we just write is y equals 7x. This says $7 per hour and how much she'll get. So here's the graph of the function. We already labeled the axes and at least labeled 2 points with input and outputs. So let's see. We're just going to guesstimate what this is going to be. So I'm going to say this is 1 hour over time, 2 hours, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so go ahead and label that. And we're going to go straight up, and we're going to go kind of straight over. All we're going to do is label our y-axis. Let's label it by 7s, because that's how much she's earning per hour, right? So I can say that's 7, this is about 14, this up here is about 21, and then so on and so forth. But at least it says at least label 2 points. So what I'm going to say for my first point here is I'm going to label it 1, 7. Because remember, for a point, it's x, y. And then I'm going to say right here, for 2 hours, it's going to be $14. So those are pretty much the easy 2 points that we can graph. And obviously this isn't to scale. It says approximately label at least 2 points. Alright, so let's move on to, our second one over here. It says, which is growing faster? So now we're going to compare. So Noah is depositing money in his account every week to save money. The graph shows the amount he has saved as a function of time since he opened his account. So remember, x-axis is always horizontal, y-axis is always vertical. So Elena opened an account the same day as Noah. The amount of money E in her account, because that's her name, Elena, is given by this equation. E equals 8W plus 60, where W is the number of weeks since the opening account. which matches Noah's, right? And this is 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and so on and so forth. Who started out with more money in their account, and explain why. So what we can do is look at 0, because that means that that is the original amount he started with. Meaning this is the amount that he put into his bank account before any weeks started. So it looks like for Noah, he started out with $60. So I'm going to put down here, I'm going to put Noah started with $60. Alright, so now we're going to figure out what Elena did. So we have her equation right here. It's E equals 8W plus 60. Alright, so how we can figure out at week 0 how much she started with, all we need to do is put a 0 in for W. So meaning 8 times 0 plus 60, anything times 0 is 0. So it looks like Elena also started with $60. So who started with more money in their account? Well, they both started with the same amount. So what we're going to say is they both started with, with $60 in their bank accounts. Alright, so now who is saving money at a faster rate? And explain how we know. Well, what we can do, especially for Noah's, and I'll zoom in, we'll start with Noah. What we can do for Noah's is figure out the slope, how much money he's putting in each week. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the weeks are counting by 2s, but the lines in between are also 1s. So essentially what we're counting by is 1s. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and so on and so forth. So I can fill in those gaps. I also know that this is counting by 20s, right? So I know in between, because I know I'm going to have to eventually figure it out. In between, they're actually counting by 10s. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and so on and so forth. Alright, so what I'm going to do, and the easiest way to figure out how much money Noah is changing by, I'm going to start with right here. I'm going to start as his original $60. And what I'm going to do is find the slope. And remember, slope is rise over run. So I'm going to rise up or down and run left or right. So what I'm going to do is rise and then run to the next point. So I know that this is one box, but remember, this is counting by 10s. So I know I have 10 for my rise over right here. I have 1, 2. And the reason it's 2 is because the x-axis is counting by 2. So 1, 2. So now I have 10 over 2. Well, I can reduce that, which means that he has a slope of 5. So that means each week he's putting in $5. Alright, so Noah's putting in $5 each week. So let's figure out what Elena is saving by. Well, she actually got the equation here. We actually know what her equation is. 8W plus 60. Well, her slope, which is, remember, attached to whatever letter we're dealing with. Oops. So this is our slope, meaning Elena's slope is going to be 8. So she's earning $8 a week. So who's saving at a faster rate? Well, it's going to be Elena. So Elena is saving at a faster rate because she is saving $8 a week while Noah saves $5 a week. Oops. Okay. So obviously we can see that Elena is saving more money each week because she's putting more into her bank account. If you put more money in, it means later on you're going to have more money. The less money you put in, the less amount of money you'll have. So how much money will Noah save over the course of the year if he doesn't make any withdrawals? And how long will it take Elena to save that much? So first thing we need to know is Noah's equation, since we know that this is our slope, is y equals 5x plus 60. Remember, the $60 is what he originally started with. The $5 is how much he makes each week. So this is Noah's equation. So how much money will he save over the course of the year? Well, since this is weeks, I know that there is 52 weeks in a year. So what we're going to do with his equation is take 52 and plug it in for x, for the number of weeks. So remember, he's not withdrawing any money, which I give him props. Sometimes it might be a little bit hard to take out some money. So 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 1 is 26. So 5 times 5 times 52 is going to give me 260. Bring everything else down, because I still need to add his original $60 that he was started with. So now I have 260 plus 60, which is going to give me $320 for the year. Crazy. So now it says, how long will it take for Elena to save that much? So what's cool about Elena's equation, y equals 8w plus 60, instead of putting this 320 in for weeks, because that's how much money, remember her y is also money. So what I can do is actually plug in 320 into y, because that's the money aspect. We want to know how many weeks we're looking for. So just like when we were dealing with two-step equations, I need to get this 8w by itself. In order to do that, I need to subtract 60 from both sides, because I want to get that away first and then divide by 8. So 320 minus 60 is going to give me 260. These 60s cancel. I'm going to bring down my 8w. And if I divide, which is the last step, because remember we need to get w by itself, divide by 8, and take a calculator and do so, we're going to get, move down a little bit so I have enough room. So these 8's cancel. I'm left with w equals 260 divided by 8. That can go in 3 times. 24. Oops, sorry, that's a really bad 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. And then we can get close to 2, which would be 16. We add our 0. It's going to take her about 32.5 weeks to save that much money. So in reality, who's really making more money? Well, we know that she's making $8 a week, so it makes sense that's going to take her 32.5 weeks versus 52 weeks like Noah to make the same amount.